Once upon a time, somewhere in faraway Russia, there lived a girl named Masha. She was the great-grandmother of today's Masha, a cartoon character loved by children all over the world. Masha grew up with her grandmother and grandfather, in a house near the forest. She was a smiling and cheerful girl, grandmother's and grandmother's smart girl, who filled their days with joy and love. Her friends lived near her grandparents' house, with whom Masha loved to play and explore the world around her. It was summer, the days were getting longer and the girls were enjoying the sun, so they played outside all day. So they once thought that it would be great to go to the forest and pick strawberries and mushrooms. They agreed and went to their friend Masha to invite her to join them. Soon, excited, they gathered in front of her house with baskets. As soon as they saw her, they said in unison, "Masha, let's go to the forest to pick strawberries and mushrooms, do you want to come with us?" Masha was happy. She ran to her grandparents and excitedly asked, "Grandma, kid, can I go with my friends to the forest to pick strawberries?" "You can, our dear child," they said. "But be careful, the forest is very dangerous, don't get separated from your friends so you don't get lost." "I will, Grandma and Grandpa, don't worry," said Masha in a hurry. She took the basket and ran. The cheerful and smiling girls set off on the country road that leads to the nearby forest. Going to the forest seemed like a real adventure and they hurried to enjoy it as much as possible. Grandmother and grandfather waved and watched the girls for a long time, until they disappeared from their sight. They were happy that they were getting along so well. Jumping for joy, a united group hurried down the path towards the forest, their baskets swinging as if they were looking forward to being filled soon. In a cheerful conversation, the girls' journey passed in an hour and soon they were in the forest. The sun was breaking through the thick branches of 100-year-old trees, caressing their faces and revealing delicious forest fruits. The little girls were delighted and went in search. They raced to pick more sweet berries, squealed with happiness when they saw mushrooms, ran from bush to bush and peeked into every corner. Searching for forest fruits was a very fun game for them. But in that game Masha completely forgot the words of grandparents. She jumped from bush to bush, picked up the leaves of the bushes under which wild strawberries were hiding, ran to pick the mushroom as soon as she saw it. And so, step by step, bush by bush, tree by tree, when she looked around, there was no sign or voice from her friends. Masha stretched herself on her toes, shielded her eyes from the sun in order to see further, called out to them, but her friends did not respond. At first Masha thought they were playing with her, that they hid well, like when they play hide and seek, but since none of them spoke after a while, poor Masha realized that she had lost them. Masha did not lose hope that she would find her friends. She walked, and persistently called them. And so she didn't even notice that she was going deeper and deeper into the forest, which was becoming more and more dense. The trees crowded around her, the branches let in the sun's rays less and less, and anxiety crept into her soul. Only then did the little girl remember what her grandparents had told her when they were leaving. She was careless and allowed herself to pass over their words lightly. She encouraged herself and walked on, believing that her friends would soon appear. Finally, she broke out into a clearing and saw a hut on it. Masha's face lit up for an instant, her torment was finally over, the little girl thought. He will go inside and ask the people living in the hut for help. But Masha had no idea what surprise was waiting for her in the hut. Unfortunately, that was not the end, but the beginning of her torment. She hurried towards the hut, while all sorts of thoughts about who could live in it were running through her head. Maybe a forester or hunter. Be that as it may, she believed that he would help her find her friends and return home. Although tired from the long hike, in the blink of an eye she stood in front of the door of the wooden house and knocked bravely. It echoed through the clearing. Once, a second time, a third time, but since no one answered, Masha tried again. She tried one more time, then sat down and tightened the lock and the door creaked. "Excuse me, is there anyone? I need help," she said, still standing at the door, which she opened wide. Nobody answered. Masha tried again. "Is there anyone? I'm Masha, I'm lost, I need help." But the hut was empty. Masha stepped unsteadily over the threshold and a beautiful and spacious tucked-away living room appeared before her. There were many decorations on the wall and various objects were lying all around. When she went around the whole wooden house, she saw a bench next to a pillar. She sat down on it in confusion and stopped to think. Who lives in this hut? She asked herself. Why not at home? Where did he go? Will he come back and when? Questions swarmed, but Masha didn't know the answer to any of them. She sat for so long, She herself couldn't say how long, when she noticed that the darkness was slowly creeping into the house and painting it with muted tones. The owner of the hut will surely show up soon, she thought, and impatiently awaited his arrival. Masha had no idea that the owner of the hut was a bear, just as he had no idea that a big surprise was waiting for him at home. He didn't even dream that there was a little girl who had lost her way in his hut. As usual, the bear returns home after a day spent in the forest in search of his favorite sweet, honey. The forest was full of honeycombs made by bees in tree trunks, and the bear was happy to discover those places. As his name suggests, he loved honey a lot. Sitting on a bench, Masha suddenly heard muffled footsteps, which slowly became clearer. Someone was approaching the hut, someone whose step was strong and echoed terribly in the quiet night. She jumped from the bench, when the door suddenly opened. A bear was standing on them, so big that it blocked the entire door. He was carrying a bucket full of honey. Masha squealed in fear, and the bear stopped as if petrified. "Who are you? What are you looking for in my hut?" he asked. I'm upset," stammered the little girl. "I entered the hut to look for help." The bear's confusion immediately disappeared and he was very happy. "Ho ho ho. Very nice," he squealed with happiness. "I won't be alone anymore. It's really good that you got lost. I haven't had anyone to keep me company for years. From now on you will live with me, you will prepare my lunch, you will clean the hut." Masha was stunned. She thought that the owner of the cabin would help her get back home to her grandparents, but he tells her something completely different.
And when she heard what the bear said at the end, "Don't even think of leaving me and try to run away," she couldn't believe her ears and burst into tears. From then on, Masha lived with the bear. She did everything she could, the bear says. She washed the dishes, cleaned the house, cooked lunch, and the hut shone like never before. The bear would already put a lantern on his shoulder at dawn and go into the forest, and he would come back like those evenings only when the sun went to rest. Poor Masha was alone and very unhappy. She cried every day, thinking about Grandma and Grandpa, how worried they were that she was gone, and she was sorry that she had caused them so much suffering and pain. It didn't occur to him to run away. Bear told her this very clearly. He repeated it to her several times, but not because he was evil and dangerous, but because he didn't want to be alone anymore. And the forest also scared her. It was very dense and unfamiliar. She would easily get lost in it again, and who knows what kind of trouble she would get into. Medved was very kind to her. It was clear that he liked her company and how she liked him. He was a good host, but she missed her house, her beloved grandparents, her friends, and all the life she used to live. During a break between household chores, she would sit by the window and gaze longingly far away, where her dear grandmother and grandfather are. And tears would roll down her cheeks. But one day while she was cleaning, she saw an unusual, huge woven basket. And a thought came to her. I'll get out, I'll get out. She repeated to herself. She came up with a plan, kneaded and baked a mountain of honey cakes, the bear's favorite treats, and waited as if on pins and needles for him to come back from the forest. When the bear appeared at the door, she quickly placed him in his favorite armchair, served him tea and gingerbread, asked if he was tired, and finally said, "Bears, bears, I miss Grandma and Grandpa. Let me go to the village for a day, to bring them cakes. It's out of the question, you'll get lost in the forest. Make you cookies," said the bear, "and I will take 'em away." And that's what Masha wanted. Her plan unfolded exactly as she wanted. Masha didn't sleep well all night because of the excitement. But regardless, Orna woke up as soon as the bear left and immediately got up. Today is a big day for her. She will finally return home to her grandmother and grandfather. She got ready in the blink of an eye and rushed to the kitchen. He will have to prepare a mountain of cakes until the bear comes back from the forest. It won't be difficult for her at all. She made delicious treats with her grandmother so many times, helped her mix and decorate them. Just so her plan doesn't go wrong. In a few hours, if everything goes well, she'll be in her house. And that gave her incredible strength. As soon as she went down to the kitchen, she put on her apron, brought the ingredients from the pantry, arranged them on the table and got to work. There was flour, eggs, butter, honey, milk, delicious berries and cake mix. Finished, she arranged them on a baking sheet and baked them, and then decorated them beautifully. She prepared them with a lot of love and really tried. The intoxicating smell spread through the kitchen and the entire hut, and Masha was very excited. Bear came home much earlier this time. Whether he smelled delicious cakes or was afraid that Masha would run away, who knows? All in all, he was ready to take him to her grandmother and grandfather. When he entered the kitchen, he was surprised by the sight he saw. Masha had finished everything. The basket, which he had forgotten about for a long time, stood ready next to the table, and next to it was a large plate full of beautiful cakes. "Excellent, you have arrived," said Masha. "I'm just going to put the cookies in the basket, but let me tell you something, don't open the basket, don't touch the cookies. I will climb to the top of the oak tree and watch you from there." The bear just rolled his eyes, thought that this girl has a vivid imagination, and said, "Give me that basket." But Masha thought of something. "Bear, go outside for a moment," she said, "it seems to me that it will rain, it would not be good to get wet." The bear mumbled agreeing, but he didn't want to contradict her. He went out on the porch of the house and stared at the sky to check if there were any clouds. Masha quickly grabbed the plate with cookies, lifted it above her head and carefully entered the basket, lowering the plate slightly from above. Everything went according to plan and Masha was very satisfied. The bear returned to the room and muttered, "There is no cloud anywhere." "Hey, Masha, where is that little girl going?" he said more to himself, not intending to look for her around the house. "I'll be going." He put the basket on his shoulders and went. The sun was up in the sky and it was pretty hot. The bear closed the gate and started down the path. He knew the way to her grandmother and grandfather very well. He had to go through the entire forest, at the end of which was their house. In the rhythm of the bear's slow steps, the basket with cakes on his back and with Masha, who was crouching inside her. The bear did not even think that the girl was hiding in the basket. He was big and strong, he could carry a big load, so he didn't notice that the basket was heavy. Masha was overjoyed that her plan to return home was going the way she wanted. In a little while, she would be in her little house. Step by step, the bear soon entered the dense forest. Now it was a little easier because the sun didn't burn so hard. The path meandered between the branches of tall trees hundreds of years old. He knew the forest like the back of his hand, every tree, every canopy, every bush. He passed that road every day and the forest was like his second home. How he looked forward to the honeycomb he would find. The bear thought about that and many other things, especially about Masha, who recently lived with him. "It's really wonderful when you're not alone," thought the bear and slowly walked away. No matter how hardy and strong he was, the bear got tired. He saw a big oak tree with a nice stump next to it, in a thick shade, and it seemed to him that it was the right place to rest. He turned off the road, approached the tree stump and muttered to himself, "Arf! I'm really tired. To rest the old bones. I'm going to sit on a tree stump, I'm going to eat a cookie." And just then he took off the basket and started to squat down, when he heard her voice, "I see you, I see you." The bear started, jumped up and said, "Oh, how well this Masha can see." And so our bear forgot about the old bones and the rest, so he put the basket on his back again and continued on. He walked and walked, and all the time he was thinking that Masha has the eyes of a falcon when she can see so far. Time passed, his legs hurt more and more, it was warm under the thick bear fur, and he got tired again. He turned into a glade, when he again saw a tree stump on it, as if he could sit on it and rest. "Ugh, I'm so tired," said the bear. "I'll sit on a tree stump, I'll eat a cookie." They sat down on a tree stump, but just as he did so, they heard another wave. I see you, bears. Don't sit on the tree stump, don't eat cookies, bring grandma, bring blankets. Oh, how fast this fan is. She sits high on a tree, she can see far from the tree," she said, then sad and tired, she immediately got up and continued on. The bear was walking, faster than before. He didn't think about vacation anymore, because he was afraid of her stories. Now he wanted to get to Grandma and Grandpa's house as soon as possible, give him the basket of cakes and go back to his cabin. Soon he came out to the edge of the forest and saw a village in the distance, where her grandparents lived. He saw their house in the distance and was happy that his journey was over. He only had to deliver a package from their beloved granddaughter Masha. With a slow, tired step, the bear found himself in front of the gate of her house. There was no one in the yard and he headed for the door. He was very tired and couldn't wait to get rid of the big basket. He came to the door of the house and knocked hard. "Open it, I'm bringing you cookies from your granddaughter Masha," he mumbled, standing in front of the door and not putting down the basket. He waited patiently for the hosts to open them and did not even think that the delivery of the shipment would go wrong. While approaching the house, the bear, tired from the long hike, did not notice that Masha had a dog in the yard, which did not like the arrival of the uninvited guest at all. When he saw the bear in front of the door, the faithful guard jumped to his feet and barked so loudly that the bear was terrified. He dropped the basket in front of the door and ran as fast as his paws could, to reach the forest as soon as possible. The noise also disturbed the neighboring dogs, who wholeheartedly supported their friend. Without looking back, the bear found himself in the forest in a few steps. He narrowly escaped trouble. "Ugh, good thing I got away from them," he thought. "Now I just have to get to my cabin." When Grandma and Grandpa saw a huge basket in front of their door, they were amazed. "What is this? Who left us a present?" They were amazed. They saw the basket without suspecting that their witty granddaughter Masha was inside. They searched for her for days, cried from morning to evening because Masha seemed to have sunk into the ground. Oh, how he will be surprised in no time. How happy they will be. Decker carefully approached the basket, lifted the lid and immediately stood speechless. He looks and cannot believe his eyes. In the basket is their beloved granddaughter, Grandma and Grandpa's gold, alive and well. Masha stood up and now her grandmother saw her. Oh, how happy they were. They cried from happiness, they hugged her strongly, the strongest in their lives. They kissed and hugged her and said in a voice, "You are alive, our sunshine, clever Grandma and Grandpa. How did you think of this? Grandma, boy, how happy I am to finally see you." "I will never be careless again," said Masha. Then, while they feasted on the delicious cakes she had prepared for them, she told them in detail what had happened to her since she separated from her friends. She didn't forget a single detail, she described everything to them. The grandmother and grandfather sighed for a moment, their eyes were full of tears, but in the end they concluded that their granddaughter was really smart, that she wisely managed to get out of trouble and showed that she is very brave. And since then they were together again and lived long, long and happily. And the bear? No, he was alone again.